In this video, I want to talk about a quilt project that is very good for a Singer Model 20. You could also use another toy machine such as the Gateway, but I think the Model 20 is the level of quality that you want to work with if you're going to do this. I say that because I've been fiddling with my Gateway for a couple of days, and it's more of a toy machine than the Model 20. And the Model 20s were sold as light household duty. So this is a very simple patch quilt, and what you're going to need is 108 5-inch squares, a twin size batting, and a backing fabric that is also twin size. And I'm using an old sheet. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to work with a Model 20 for a little while, even though I've had every other machine that I own out in the past couple of days, for two reasons. One, I like working with a Model 20. It's small, it's easy, they're wonderful for piecing. And two, this particular quilt is tied and not quilted. So that makes it a very good first quilt project for a child, but it also makes it a very fast quilt project for an adult. So you need 108 5-inch squares. These are strips that I've sewn into 12. So in my case, I used red, white, and blue. So there are 4 sets of red, white, and blue in each strip. And so 12 to a row, and in this case, and I have to kind of go over here, what I'm going to do is sew these rows together vertically. You can see I have them hanging here. Instead of stitching them, well, I'm still going to stitch them the same way, obviously, but the red, white, blue is going to go this way. So I will have 9 strips across and 12 blocks down, and that's your 108 squares. So you want to sew 9 strips of 12 and then sew them together, and you're making a 9 block by 12 block quilt, and it's 108 squares. Now, after you get the top sewn completely together, then you layer the 3 layers with your pieced top, your batting or an old flannel blanket or something, and your backing, and like I said, for this I'm using a sheet. These are bandanas that I had cut up. Bandanas are inexpensive. You could use any economical fabric. You could even use muslin and a sheet. And then, after you get the layers put together, on each square, you're going to use an embroidery needle and yarn, tapestry needle actually, for yarn. You need a bit of a point. You might have to get an actual embroidery needle instead of a tapestry needle, because you need enough of a point on the needle to be able to come through the sheet on the back, through the batting, and up through the top. And you're going to cut each length about 3 inches. So you'll have 2 ends of 1.5 inches long. You tie them in a knot twice, trim them so they all match. And on your entire quilt, each square needs to be tied at each corner and once in the center. And that depends on the batting. If you're using an old blanket for the batting, you could go with just at each corner. But I'm using a batting that is rated for 4 inches in between quilting lines. And since this isn't going to be quilted at all, it's going to be tied, I want to make sure that I have it tied within a 4-inch distance. I don't want the batting to be shifting. So this is your basic tied quilt. My great aunt made me one and gave it to me when I was 7. It's also when I had a Model 20. So it's a wonderful young child, preteen project where you can sit and just, all you have to do is explain to them how many rows, how many blocks in a row, how to put the rows together. It's a wonderful way for anyone to learn how to make a first quilt. And because you're not doing any machine quilting, you can of course hand quilt it if you want, but you're not doing any machine quilting, your Model 20 is not going to give you any problems. It's all about piecing and then piecing the rows and then sewing the rows together. And the rest of it is tying. So this is a fairly simple quilt to do. A little bit more complicated than my other bandana quilts because of the smaller size of the blocks. But it's a simple quilt to do, and it's very easy to do with a Model 20 sewing machine.